approval of the minutes and public comment. And then we have some business items to take up. So Sarah, why don't you move forward, please?
Nancy Backus.
Here.
Angela Burney.
Here.
Thank you. Dow Constantine.
Here.
Reagan Dunn. Jenny Durkin.
Here?
Lorena Gonzalez.
Here.
Jonathan Hemphill.
Here.
Andrew Lewis.
Present.
Kirk McLean.
I'm here.
Joe McDermott.
Here.
Ed Prince. Zanita Reed.
Here.
We have 10 members present.
Thank you very much, Sarah. We now will do approval of the minutes from the meeting of November 19th, 2020. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Madam Chair, this is Nancy Backus. I move to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Angela Burney, second.
Thank you. We then can go to a vote. And Sarah, do we need roll call vote for this?
No, I can't do this again.
We can, or we can do by acclamation, your
All
preference.
right, let's do by acclamation. Is there all in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. We'll now move to public comment. Sarah, could you move forward that, please?
Hey, you guys, this is Kirk McLean. I'd like to say something really quick before we get started with that. I got into work today and found out that one of my tenants passed away in his room. We only found out because we did a wellness check, and we didn't know. So I'm kind of split between two things, and I also have a training that I've got to do. I'm required to do it. I got one message earlier this week that I could forego that training, but now because of this other situation, my supervisor did not tell me. He said I could try and do both meetings, but I can't do both, and I'm kind of stuck. And I communicated that with my team this morning, but I'm not finding a solution that I can work with here, so I don't know what to do.
Well, Kirk, thank you so much. And all of us give you our deepest sympathies. We have a quorum. If you have to pull away, we understand it. We obviously would love to have you here and participate as much as you can, but each of us has different challenges at different times. And of course, yours is one of the most acute. So whatever you think you need to do, we all support you.
Well, thank you, Jenny. I appreciate that. But my only concern is that there's a vote that I would like to be present for. But if I can't be here, then I don't know what the rules state as far as me casting a vote before the motion or whatever it is that would be voting on.
Okay.
I think it has to do with the amendment.
Yeah. So Kirk, what we need you to do is that if you need to do something, jump off really quick, and if not, we can move the vote without you. And if so, I can also just prompt you to come back on when that vote is being taken.
Is that okay with the group? Is that according to protocol?
You do have to be
Yes,
present to
correct.
vote. You can't vote by proxy, but if you need to step out of the meeting, as long as you are here for the discussion and the vote, that can move forward.
Yeah, the problem is I can't do that because of my volume button. It works for both screens, and so I'm going to be hearing two meetings at the same time. So I'm just trapped. I don't know what to do here.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to have to leave. I think and just not attend this meeting because I've got two other important things going, and one of them is required, and the other one involves a death. So
Yeah.
I just
Well,
don't.
Kirk, we'll make sure that as Jonathan said, he can reach out to you shortly before the vote, and if you're able to rejoin, that would be terrific. But we all understand the other pressing business that you have, and again, our deepest condolences.
Thank you, Jenny. I appreciate it. I'm really sorry, guys, but I'm going to go ahead and take off now. And hopefully if Jonathan can give me some kind of notification when that vote comes up. And I know it's not according to protocol, but if that's what we all agree to do, then I can try and do that.
Thank you very much, Kirk.
Thank you, guys. Okay, bye.
Hang in there. All right, let's move back to this just shows us in real life how important the work we are doing is, and that we need to really be centered in this on the human experience of why we are at this table together. And remember, our focus truly is to help the people who are suffering the most and get solutions. So that was, I think, a sobering but important reminder to all of us on how important our work is. And with that, let's move to public comment. Sarah, can you do that, please?
All right, we have opened the chat for public comment for folks to enter into the queue. As of this moment, we do not have anyone signed up for public comment. I suggest we move forward with the agenda and revisit after folks have a chance to sign up.
That sounds great. We have a pretty packed agenda this morning, but first we will have a staff briefing. And one of the things that we'll have to do is the introduction of the new and interim director of the Seattle Human Services Department, Helen Howell, who is, many of you are familiar with her. She actually was on our governing board and stepped away from that role to join us at the city of Seattle in this really critical standpoint. Helen has just been in a number of roles in government throughout her life and in public service. She worked for Governor Locke, running the Department of Financial Institutions. She most recently has worked at the King County Office of Housing, and before that was the chief person in charge of homelessness for Pierce County. So she comes with very deep roots in the community itself, as well as vast experience. And I will say that we in the city of Seattle were incredibly fortunate to get her to agree to serve in this interim role at this really critical time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Helen. Do you want to say any words before we move to the next thing?
No, thank you very much for the welcome.
All right. And now we have a staff update from King County in Seattle.
And first up is Leo Flor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Leo Flor, the Director of King County's Department of Community and Human Services. The material for this staff update, which I won't project, was included in the meeting packet, and it is a calendar or macro timeline as it's called. It's the same version that was presented at the last meeting of this committee. And the short version is that we remain on schedule for the key items at the Governing Committee, Implementation Board, and Advisory Committee levels, and to hire a CEO. And that schedule is the same as it was at the last meeting, again in November of this committee. A quick summary of some other activities that we have going on, as the CEO search will be the subject of a subsequent update. We have 3 levels of governance within the King County Regional Homelessness Authority, as members of this committee are aware. We have the governing committee, we have an implementation board, and then we have an advisory committee. The ILA creates the possibility that the advisory committee can be constituted by the continuum of care board that's required by the federal government, and that has happened. So we now have 18 of 19 members of the advisory committee seated, all members of the implementation board seated, and then your membership of the governing committee. So we have complete governance and are now awaiting the chief executive officer to complete the group of leaders with whom both the city of Seattle and King County can begin to plan and transfer over programming, staffing, and funding to accomplish the full transition to the King County Regional Homelessness Authority of all programming by the end of this year. At the implementation board level, for your awareness, they've been focusing most recently on preparing to work with the CEO on a work plan. So the work plan is a ILA required instrument that will set out the initial activities of the authority upon hiring of the CEO. And the implementation board is beginning that conversation in anticipation of the CEO coming on, hopefully depending on their actual date of hire in February or March of this year. The other activities that are going on at the staff level, it's a lot of infrastructure preparation for the King County Regional Homelessness Authority and the CEO. So this committee has previously approved the city and county, the city of Seattle and King County to move forward on preparing for things like insurance, things like fiscal systems, things like HR support that will be required to initiate the authority. All of that is moving forward. There's also some of the details around how do you get the email account for the new CEO at an address that is neither a King County nor a Seattle address, while we are simultaneously still trying to stand up the IT department of what will become the King County Regional Homelessness Authority. So we're working through all of those details and are on schedule so that we can receive the CEO in a professional, productive way and help them get off to a full speed start right when they hit the ground. Another part of that is CEO orientation. So both King County and the city of Seattle are working together right now to prepare the information and the resources that will be necessary for a new CEO to understand all of the programming that will transfer over to the regional authority over the next year. So for example, what is the current set of contractors who are providing assistance on rapid rehousing? What are their contract dates? What are the performance metrics? How do those differ between different contracts with the city of Seattle and King County? Preparing all of that into an orientation so that, again, we can get the CEO up to full speed as quickly as possible to meet the urgency of the need that we have in front of us. That's what we're doing at the staff level. Another staff update that I wanted to provide to this committee, some members may have seen that this year, the Continuum of Care has voted to seek a waiver that was granted by the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development for the in-person count portion of the point-in-time count. So the point-in-time count is the annual count that has 3 components that we do to get a sort of one-time look at how many people are experiencing homelessness and unsheltered homelessness in the region. We have, as the COC board, sought that waiver for the in-person part of that count. So that's the major activity where people came out on a night in late December and went out and searched and counted across the community. Based on COVID risks, the Department of Housing and Urban Development granted that waiver, and that's consistent with waivers sought and granted in similar neighboring regions, including Pierce County and Snohomish County. We will still be instituting the survey-based part of the count and the HMIS-based part of the count, although the number will obviously not be strictly comparable with previous years because of that difference of the in-person count. Madam Chair, that concludes my staff report, and I'm happy to answer any questions I can.
Thank you very much for that, Leo. If anyone has questions, please use the hand-raising function, and then Sarah will call on people in order. It's easier than if you're just kind of actually physically raising your hand.
Nancy Backus.
Thank you. And just more of a comment than a question. And I've raised it before. It's just that over the past 5 years, this will be 3 different methodologies that we have used for the point-in-time count. And I'm concerned about the inconsistencies, understanding the reason for doing it this way this year, but just acknowledging that there will be significant inconsistencies once again in the counts.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Anita Reed.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of piggyback off of what Mayor Backus said, and not anybody not going out there. I mean, already it's inconsistent, but I think even though it's COVID, I just don't understand why, if we can't take extra precautions to go out there and make sure that we are counting, because actually we're losing a lot of numbers in our counts when we're not doing an actual number. And I get it, people are scared of COVID, but there are still people out there that are not being helped. So I think we, as much as a waiver has been, I think we can do better.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? I think, Sunita, just one thing to reply to you is the Continuum of Care Board obviously is its own entity. It's not something that this board made a decision, but I think it's important that we use this forum for exactly what you said, to voice those kinds of concerns so that they can filter back to the people while we're in this transition period. So thanks so much for that.
We have Jonathan Hempel.
Yeah, and I just wanted to echo that and say that it's a shame that, the count might not be as it normally is. And I also wanted to acknowledge the fact that like a lot of our unsheltered folks are now in cars. And so I think we're going to be missing out on a huge opportunity to really capture the magnitude of the situation and the problem that's going on across King County. But that's it.
Thank you for that. Sarah, any other hands raised?
No more hands.
All right, thank you for the update, Leo, and thank you everyone for the questions and comments. We'll move to the next item in the agenda, which is consideration of some changes to the bylaws. And to begin that, Tess Colby will make a staff report on where we are and what we're voting on. So if you can hold questions until after that report, that'd be helpful. Thank you. Tess?
Thank you very much, Mayor Durkin, and good morning to the members of the governing committee and public. Sarah is going to pop up the PowerPoint that I'm just going to walk us through.
Chair Durkin, I apologize, Tess. I think we actually skipped over one more part of the staff update by Sola Plumacher. Is that right?
That was not on my agenda, but sure, let's hold off on Tessa's report and do that. Sorry, Sola.
It's okay. It's hard in these crazy times to make sure we're all on track. So hello, everyone. I'm Sola Plumacher. I'm with the City of Seattle Human Services Department. And I just quickly wanted to orient you to what is happening with the CEO recruitment for the regional authority. So in front of you is a timeline of key steps being taken and to be taken to get us to a confirmation vote of the CEO. So first interviews were conducted last week and 2 finalists were selected to move forward. There are 2 meet and greet sessions being planned for the 2 finalists to have some additional conversations with key stakeholders. The Lived Experience Coalition is working with their leadership and coalitions to hold a meet and greet sometime next week. And then the Sound Cities Association has established a time to meet with finalists on January 26th. They will collect information and share that informally with members of the governing committee and implementation board in your combined second round of interviews coming up next Friday on January 29th. You all have that in your calendars, hopefully. And then following the interviews on the 29th, during a closed executive session, the governing committee will recuse themselves. The implementation board will determine their finalist recommendation to be forwarded to the governing committee for a February 4th confirmation vote. And then following that, February 18th, we are hoping that the newly confirmed CEO will be invited to the governing committee to have their first meeting with you all. We expect that their actual start date happens sometime between the end of February and the beginning of March, but that is all yet TBD. We need to talk with them once they get started, but just wanted to orient you all to the progress that we're making. It's very exciting. We have maintained our trajectory to stay on track for this process, and I'm happy to answer any questions folks might have.
Thanks. That's a great update and really an important one. Sarah, again, if people have questions, if you could use the hand raise function, and Sarah will call on you individually.
Jonathan Hemphill.
Yeah, so I have a quick question. I understand that we had scheduled our meet and greet, and the initial idea was to reschedule on the 26th, and now I see that the SEA also has their on the 26th, and so I'm a bit curious as to why it says the 25th, and there has been no information or connection with me to let me know that the 26th would not work.
So I just listed on here, Jonathan, that it's been rescheduled for the week of the 25th, but I wasn't exactly sure when that happened. So happy to work with you on getting that figured out.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions?
All Right. I want to really compliment the staff and the work that they outreach folks um, and the consultants we hired. It has not been the easiest thing to try to recruit, interview for a CEO position of this magnitude during COVID. And I think that we are on a pretty aggressive time schedule to meet the deadlines we have in front of us. And so hopefully those days will hold. Last year was, we experienced and nothing went according to plan in any part of our lives in government. And we're hoping to be able to stay on track for this. But thank you, Sola, and thank you to the implementation board, all the work they've done, and to everyone who's been organizing their own coalitions to make sure that they could meet with this candidate. So thank you for that.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, now we will go to the next item on the agenda unless there is any additional questions or comments on that last thing for the good of the order. Perfect. Tess, moving to the bylaws, if you could give the staff report, and Sarah can help you with the PowerPoint.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor. All right. I am going to provide the staff report for the bylaws revisions that are before you today. I will start by doing just a little bit of a reminder of where we are with the bylaws. Next slide, please. So as I'm sure you remember, the bylaws, just a general reminder about the purpose, the bylaws establish the basically the operating procedures for the governing committee. Much of what might normally be in the bylaws are actually already in the ILA. So for example, the ILA addresses the composition of committee and the terms of the committee. The governing committee, it identifies the sort of minimum frequency of governing committee meetings, and quorum is also defined in the ILA. Next slide, please. So the status of the current bylaws is that on August 20th, the governing committee approved a series of amendments to the bylaws. Those were approved in advance of approving the bylaws as a whole, and inadvertently, the committee the committee meeting ended just before there was an ability to vote on the bylaws as a whole. So what you have today before you are the bylaws as amended, and I'll just remind you quickly about what those amendments were. But again, the bylaws as a whole will need to be approved. So the approved amendments from August 20th were a new section 4.05 that set a voting threshold for amendments to the budget, goals, and policies as a minimum approval of at least 8 members of the governing committee. Sarah, next slide, please. There were a number of amendments that were approved in August related to the Lived Experience Coalition, predominantly related to the role that the Lived Experience that the Lived Experience Coalition has in selecting the governing committee members, and that the LEC shall appoint those lived experience members to the governing committee to be approved and passed on by the advisory committee. Lived experience members are also identified in the bylaws as serving for 24 months. And they'll be replaced in the same manner that lived experience members are appointed and confirmed. Alternates for the lived experience members, they will have 3 alternates, again, appointed through the Lived Experience Coalition. And those 3 alternates will serve on behalf of any and all of the lived experience members. Excuse me. And then the last amendment that was approved was a requirement that the CEO will provide the agenda, minutes, and other meeting materials at a minimum 7 days in advance of any regular meeting. And that the authority staff will be responsive to the needs of the lived experience and members and their staff. Next slide, please. So today before you, there are 2 proposed revisions to the bylaws. One is in Article 3, referring to the governing committee officers and chair and co-chairs. And it's specific to the chair and co-chairs. This revision is recommending a rotating chair structure. So each member block, the Lived Experience Coalition, the King County members, Seattle members, and the Sound Cities Association members will designate a chair from their block for a co-chair from their block for upcoming meetings. The term of that co-chair will be 1 year. And during that year, meetings will rotate among those co-chairs. And there'll be a calendar of meetings that will be set so that there will be certainty about who is going to co-chair each meeting. It also prescribes that if a designated co-chair cannot preside at the meeting, then there's a process by which another co-chair can be selected either from the member block or if that's not possible, designated by the chair that would have chaired the meeting. And I should note that these revisions to the chairing structure, to a rotating chair structure, is intended to reflect an equitable duty or distribution of duties for chairing meetings, and ensure that members, staff, and the public have shared expectations for how meetings will be facilitated. And it is responsive to recommendations that came from the lived experience members earlier in the year with respect to how chairing of the meetings will be shared among all members. So next slide, please. The second revision that is proposed is that the Article 4.5, that's the new section, Article 4, Section 4.05, that was the new section that was approved in August, that section will be removed. So, so again, that was the voting requirements section will be removed, and that new language will be placed in Section 4, Section 4.01. That language is intended to state the intention of all the governing committee that all members will make every effort possible to ensure that votes will be taken with all members present, and that's particularly important for substantive issues such as decisions related to the budget and decisions related to plans and policies. And again, this is, I believe this is consistent with the intent of the intent both of the assembly and of the governing committee that would be inclusive and collaborative. That all work be inclusive and collaborative. So that is the end of my presentation. And I will turn this back to Mayor Durkin.
Thank you very much. We'll take questions by raising hand. If everyone could mute themselves if they're not speaking, that would be helpful. We've got some. Perfect. If you have a question for Tess on either of these revisions, if you could raise your hand. And Sarah, if you see any hands, if you could walk through that, that'd be helpful.
No hands yet. We'll give folks another second. And I am just now allowing Ed Prince into the meeting. He was caught outside.
Yes, I also saw for the record that Reagan Dunn also was able to join for the previous discussion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good to see you.
Thank you.
I mean,
do we have a motion on this matter?
Madam Chair, this is Member Backus. I move to approve.
Second.
And that was Andrew Lewis who seconded, I believe?
Yes.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion of the motion? For this one, I believe, Sarah, we should take a roll call vote.
Great. Nancy Backus,
Aye.
Angela Burney,
Aye.
Dow Constantine,
Aye.
Reagan Dunn,
Aye.
Jenny Durkin,
Aye.
Lorena Gonzalez,
Aye.
Jonathan Hemphill,
Aye.
Andrew Lewis,
Aye.
Kirk McLean, Joe McDermott,
Aye.
Ed Prince,
Aye.
Zanita Reed.
Aye.
That is 11 ayes, 1 absent.
The motion's passed. Thank you very much. Now that that motion has passed, the next order of business will be for each of the coalitions to nominate and designate who will be acting as their chair and be listed in the schedule. Sarah, is there anything else we need to do that? Are we going coalition by coalition? Is that the intent?
Lorena Gonzalez.
Yeah, just really quickly, I think, so I think we just voted on the amendments. Do we need to now adopt the bylaws as amended? Or has that procedurally been done?
We had voted on the amendments back in August. We were voting on the bylaws to accept the bylaws this time, I believe. That's what my motion was for.
We'll do belts and suspenders. Do I have a motion that those amendments and the bylaws be ratified as amended today?
Board Member Backus moves for that. Thank you.
Board Member
For a
Lewis
second.
seconds.
Thank
Second.
you, Board Member Lewis. Let's take a roll call on that as well, Sarah. Thank you for that, Member Gonzalez.
Nancy Backus,
Aye.
Angela Burney,
Aye.
Dow Constantine,
Aye.
Reagan Dunn,
Aye.
Jenny Durkin,
Aye.
Lorena Gonzalez,
Aye.
Jonathan Hemphill,
Aye.
Andrew Lewis,
Aye.
Kirk McLean, Joe McDermott,
Aye.
Ed Prince,
Aye.
Zanita Reed.
Aye.
That is 11 ayes, 1 absent.
Thank you very much. The measure passes. Now, I believe that each of the coalitions needs to designate who their chair is. We can take that up in today's business if the coalitions are prepared to do so. I'll start with SCA. Does SCA have someone they would like to move in second as their designated chairs today?
Madam Chair, I would like to nominate or appoint Ed Prince as SCA's co-chair.
And I will second that. This is Angela Burney.
Thank you very much. I think by this we can do, I think the board should adopt that as a recognized co-chair, and we can do it by acclamation. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Congratulations, Ed Prince. We now have, I would move to King County. Is the King County prepared to make a motion to designate someone as chair today?
We are, Jenny.
All right, Joe, who do you do?
I would move, we appoint Dow as our delegation chair.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to have Executive Constantine as the designated chair for King County. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Dow, did you just oppose?
I just thought Reagan was just a little quick on his seconding of that.
Yeah, I saw that. We noticed that.
I support Dow. Go Dow.
That's right. And the Lived Experience Coalition, do you have someone that you are prepared to designate today as your chair?
Yes, we do. I propose that we designate Jonathan Hemphill as our co-chair representative.
And since Jonathan may feel awkward about seconding his own nomination and Kirk couldn't join us, I will second that.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, Jonathan. And for the city of Seattle, is there a nomination for the designation for chair for this year?
Madam Chair, I would like to nominate Mayor Jenny Durkin for the position.
Is there a second to that?
Lorena Gonzalez, I will second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, we have our chair designates for the year, and we have our bylaws. We're about to June. Any other business for the good of the order that a member would like to raise?
Jonathan Hempel?
Oh, I know that so me and my colleagues had some concerns and wanted to speak. I'm gonna pass it over to Zanita.
Thank you, Zanita.
Yeah, I just have a question. So over this time that we've had a break, I've even during COVID, I've been out, and seen many of our constituents that are unsheltered, still on the streets, and nobody is connected with them, and it's super cold out. But I've also been doing a little bit of, research and reading and things like that, just really trying to dig in deep to what I'm doing on this board. But I've came across many articles and things, and I just have a question that if we're at this table for one reason, then that's really to solve this problem of getting, people off the streets or ending homelessness. Why there are some that are working against that and not even for that. I've read, and I'm just going to call Mr. Dunn, Reagan. I've not read one or seen one article that you have been compassionate or even cared about what we are sitting at this table doing. Busing homelessness out of our region, like those things. I mean, you're sitting at this table though, so I just have a question of, if you are not for what we are doing, I don't feel, that's why I say I don't trust and things like that. How can I trust that you have the best interest of those that we are serving at forefront? Because I've not, like, even in your podcast with Dory Monson, just like through the years, like nothing I have seen or read says that you support anything that you're sitting at this table for right now. And yeah, that just concerns me.
I'm going to give Councilmember Dunn a brief ability to respond to that, but I think that very important to be able to discuss items at this table that relate to our work and build the trust that we need to build. But I think some of these, it will be important for us to kind of find a structure to do that, Sunita, and let's work together on how we do that and bring and have sessions together to address some of this, and for you and Councilmember Dunn or others to be able to meet in smaller groups to talk about, some of the issues and build trust, because I know none of us can go off just what's reported in newspapers about any of us in reflecting our deep work and compassion on these issues. So Councilmember Dunn, I'll give you an opportunity to respond, but
Sure.
I think that having this discussion is very important, but finding perhaps a different structure to do it would be important as well.
Yeah, I agree. I don't want to.
Nobody even has reached out, if that's not, if it's wrong, then correct that, because I would definitely want to correct if somebody is misquoting me or misrepresenting what I am saying. So I would love to meet on a one-on-one, but nobody's even reached out to me either. So I'm just, yeah, thank you.
Madam Mayor, if I could just respond, because I appreciate the passion that everyone brings to this issue. And one of the great parts of our democracy is that we all bring different temperaments, talents, and convictions to what we do. And part of that is also bringing different policy perspectives. we know through our own one night count that 9% of people who are homeless benefit directly from reunification with their families, which is why the Homeward Bound program is so important. I had a chance to visit it in multiple cities, and it is not globally the entire solution to homelessness, but it is a small part. And we are talking a lot about small parts, lots of different pieces put together to unify our community in one direction in a way that will ultimately reduce the number of folks who are on the streets, who are homeless, and give them the support services they need. I care a great deal about addiction and recovery. We know a huge percentage of the people who are on the streets are addicted in a variety of ways. 1/3 of the people who we find dead who are homeless are dead directly as a result of an overdose. And we know the mental health challenges that exist there. And so while many in this committee are focusing on their own specific issues that are close to their heart, for example, massive funding for housing, I haven't heard the kinds of conversations yet that I need to hear about substance abuse, addiction, recovery, and mental health. And I think that one of the great things that makes our democracy great is that we all bring in different perspectives. And I'll continue to advocate for those perspectives as long as I serve on this board. And I hope that we hire a CEO moving forward that can reflect my values and your values and all of our values to drive towards a common solution. Thank you for the opportunity to respond, Madam Mayor, and I'm more than happy to talk with others on this committee, including Zanita, to more fully explain my views on the subject. Thank you.
And I think one of the things, and I know that these are the most pressing issues and why we're all at the table today, is to get real solutions here. But I think we maybe benefit from a specific agenda item where we can actually address some of the components of addressing getting people inside and housed and the services they need in a comprehensive way. And having that discussion here at a table, I think would be really important. So I'm really glad you raised these issues. And it's exactly the kind of incentive we need to say, in order to move forward and to build the trust we need to do to actually address these issues, we have to have a baseline and discussion with each other and reach some kind of common understanding. So thank you so much for raising that and reminding us how important it is to talk about the whys and not just walk through an agenda. So I very much appreciate that. And I think we should be talking with staff to find a time to do that in a concrete fashion, and not just once, because what we're doing is not working well enough, or we wouldn't be here today. And I think we all have to come with the ability to recognize and have the open hearts to know that we need to be increasing our efforts in all of these areas and hold each other accountable. So I very much appreciate you raising that today.
I appreciate your response, Mr. Dunn. And from what you say, it sounds like we're on the same page. It just comes out different. So I would love to speak with you offline too. So thank you. I'm super big about the addiction thing too. So
yeah, I'd love to talk to you. And look, here's what I think. We need to embrace the conflict. There's value in that process. And I think we should it's okay to mash it together and kind of dogfight over it. And hopefully we come out with a better product. So look forward to talking to you. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you very much. Any other business for the good of the order before we adjourn?
Jonathan Hemphill.
I was going to say, thank you for giving us that time and allowing us to speak.
I would say it's us not giving or allowing. You are full members here and you have the absolute right to raise anything you want. It's part of the process, and I want to thank you for doing it.
No problem.
All right. Hearing no further questions or matters of business, we will stand in adjournment. Thank you, everyone, for the work today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
thank you, everyone. Have a blessed day.
You too.